Hi.
How are you? Very good. I think we've already got so many people who come on, and I said when you come on, then we'll say hello to everybody.
That's very nice to know.
Very good. So good evening to you sitting back in Dubai and getting ready to come back now and talk to all of us on a COVID day. Yeah, you're
Just
perfect.
a minute.
You're perfect. You look good as ever. Nothing can go wrong with you. Are you okay?
Yeah, I put it in airplane mode, but I'm still getting messages. But
Okay. We can shoot out. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally the great lady, the great Iron Lady of the Façade world, whom we call Agnes Koltay of Koltay Façades. Right? So, before I do a formal introduction of Agnes, I can only tell you so much that Koltay Façades has an office in Dubai, has an office in Singapore. They started way back in 2011. They are a young company, not even 10 years, and they're giving everybody a run for their money. They are saving the money for the facade developers. They are
we try.
You're doing a lot of value engineering, a lot of structural engineering, a lot of architecture and consultancy all rolled into one. Before we ask Agnes a few questions, I would like to share something about my contact with Agnes. And I think Agnes is a very strong woman, very strong-headed, but at the same time, a woman, very emotional, and with a very fiery personality. And with these few words, I'm going to tell her that I have always believed that women have an inner depth that makes them wonderfully complex. The irony is that you make all the wonderfully complex buildings wonderful and no more complex after you engineer them. And it is always said that a woman is someone who's a very strong choice. Whatever happens, she takes a firm decision. And I think that's what makes you very successful compared to many others. With these few words, I think the entrepreneur that you are, the consultant that you are, it's a very short introduction for someone like you because you still have a long way to go. I would like you to tell us something about your life, how you started, where you came from, starting with, I mean, to everybody. I know a lot, but let's start with Hungary.
Okay, I tell you about my life. But first of all, I don't think that there's any difference in facade engineering, whether you are a man or a woman, or I would like to think that. And I don't think that we were awarded any of our projects because I am or I'm not a woman. I think it all comes down to professionalism and technical knowledge and seeing what the client would like to achieve and working along those lines. And it doesn't matter if you are a man or a woman, it's equally tough or equally easy job.
Yeah. Gender fluid. Let's forget about all that. We'll come to the end of it in the last 10 minutes. Tell me something about your life. Tell all the viewers. There's so many who want to know so many about things about you. How you started in Hungary. How you have, everybody has two parents. How you had somebody who never knew English. And where you reached in life.
Okay, where would you like me to start?
Start from Hungary. Start from your school days. Right up to you.
Okay. I actually didn't grow up too much in Hungary. My parents are Hungarians, and we lived in Germany when I was born, and then we had a very international life because of the job of my dad. We traveled around quite a bit and lived in different countries. So after Germany, we lived in Finland, a bit of Hungary, then 4 years in Turkey, and then back to Hungary again. Then I did university in Hungary. I had a scholarship to study in the US. After US, I went back to Hungary a little bit. I worked on a project which those days were set to be the the development of the decade, and I was 24 years old, and it actually scared me that I already worked on the development of the decade. What's gonna come next? And that's when I tried to go back to the US. You have to know that it was before European Union days, so it was not that easy. You had to have a visa in order to get a job, or on the other hand, you had to have a job in order to qualify for a visa. So my plan was to go back the same way how I went first time, with a student visa, and I was looking for scholarships, and I couldn't really find anything suitable for the US. I could find something for the UK, and it was not for PhD, it was for a master's. And I was thinking it's even better. Actually, I was not really attracted to stay in academia. I just wanted the visa and the opportunities. So I did a second master's, and I could choose what I study. And by that time, I had a very strong interest in facade engineering, and I found a program. It was in Bath, and I did that program. And after that, I worked in the UK, which was another interesting story. I really wanted to work in facade engineering, but while I was looking for openings and opportunities, I came across this advertisement by the Zaha Hadid office, and they were not looking for a facade engineer. They were looking for an architect with an experienced architect who can speak Russian for one of their projects. And I sent my CV, but I was pretty clear in the cover letter that I cannot speak Russian. I'm just opportunistic. And I was most surprised that they asked me for an interview. So I went for the interview. It was with Patrick Schumacher. And the first question was, "Are you Russian?" And I said, "No." So he was like, "Okay, can you speak Russian?" I said, "No." He was like, "Okay, no problem. Show us your portfolio. What have you designed?" And I said, "Actually, I haven't designed anything. All my life until now, I was doing facade detailing and basically facade engineering." So it was like silence, like I could tell that he was thinking, why am I sitting here? So I moved on, and I started telling about, what my dissertation was about, and the fact that all of their buildings are very, very unique, and it's not very likely that catalog solutions would fit those buildings. So definitely the details have to be looked at. And somehow I managed to get this job. So I started to work with...
You knew your subject. You knew your subject. You were charming. You knew how to do your work. You got away, and you were there. Great.
It was a really great experience. I really liked working there. It was a very unique atmosphere in that office. A very experimental kind of atmosphere, like let's try this, and what if it's leaning the other way, and it's many options. It seems that some of the architecture, some of the buildings are so simple that they seem like very easy to design, and those buildings are the most difficult to design. Those buildings have hours and hours of options and options behind to investigate before you arrive to that process. And that's actually a very interesting topic, and now we are getting apart from my life, but I want to mention this because these days there's a perception that computerized systems help design a lot, and before it took 2 weeks to draw an elevation by hand, by pencil, and then AutoCAD got invented, and it became 2 days, and no BIM and Revit is available, and you have the model, and in 20 seconds you can generate an elevation. But that's actually not the case. This would make you think that the architectural design process gets shorter, and these days you can design a buildings in 3 weeks what you had to design before for half a year. And the surprising fact that it still takes half a year, because human brain does not work faster. And behind buildings, there are architects, and there are their thought process. And sometimes you have to put things aside and sleep on it, and then continue, and then sleep on it again, and then continue, and then look at other options before you are completely happy, or at least 50% happy with what you did. I actually think that as an architect, you cannot be fully satisfied, because even if you design the most perfect building with awesome alignments, there are so many other stakeholders before it gets built with slightly different interests. And whenever I meet an architect and I compliment on, a very nice building that got just completed, I always hear that, oh, you should have seen my first sketch and my second sketch. That was awesome, but it was not possible because technically it was impossible, or it was too expensive, or that was not in compliance with the regulations. So, it's always a bit of dissatisfaction in this profession. Okay, we are very far from where we started from, but I think I was saying that the design process takes time, and experiencing the Zaha Hadid type design process was really a lifetime experience. So that's where I started from as an architect. But I always had a much more stronger technical interest, and I had to realize as well that knowing too much about details, or having too much interest to work out the details, actually limits your design freedom and creativity. Many times for good design, you actually should not think of how it gets built. You should figure out something, and then you should rely on experts to work out how it can get built. And that's what I'm doing now. But that's also why I know that I could not be a very good architect.
No, you are.
I could be an average architect, but not an outstanding architect.
No, I'm going to tell you something. You are a very good architect. And you, according to
I'm not an architect. I'm a facade consultant.
Okay, you are a facade consultant now. What you had in US and separate, all separate. I'm not coming back. But since we've got so many on the program today, and very few people know of your love for skyscrapers, because of which you landed up and became a facade consultant, where everything fell in place, where a miraculous thing happened with a National Geographic magazine in your life you once told me about. I think you should share that story, and then we go into some live projects of yours. You must talk to everybody about how you got into skyscrapers, and what was that one picture, that one photograph that turned...
Yeah. Actually, it was... Okay. So I told you that we lived abroad a lot, and when we lived in Turkey, my dad worked on an international project, and we lived in a neighborhood of very international people. So our neighbors were actually Americans, and my dad was friends with them. So one day he went to have a chat with them, and then he came back with a pile of National Geographic magazines. And one of those magazines had an article about mixed-use skyscrapers, and it had a fold-out page, and that fold-out page had Chrysler Building on one side, the roof of Chrysler Building in Sunset, and on the other side it had Hancock Building, and it also had an image of a a man swimming in the swimming pool of Hancock Building, I don't know, 40-something floor with the view of the city. And I was amazed by it. I was amazed by the whole idea of, having a swimming pool that high up and having this kind of view and the whole magnificent look of tall buildings. Obviously, where I grew up, Budapest is a very, very historic city. All the other places we lived are not that dense urban environment that could justify the presence of skyscrapers. So I have not really seen skyscrapers before that magazine. And that article, I remember until today. I could not speak English those days.
And you were 6 years old, correct? And you were 6 years
Sorry?
old when you saw that. You were only 6 years old when you saw that skyscraper.
Yeah, I was about 6. Yeah.
That's what I want to
But later, when I studied in the US, I actually went to the library and I was looking for that issue of National Geographic and I found it. So much later, when I was 22, I read the article.
Amazing journey, amazing. And you've been part of Ramball, you've been part of Mine Art, you're on your own, you've done some fancy buildings. Is there any?
Yeah, after the Zaha feat, I actually ended up in Dubai. I wanted to go. London was an interesting experience. London is not the place where I would imagine, or I could imagine those days living more. I wanted to move to, I was quite excited about Hong Kong, for example. And I got a response from Hong Kong, from Meinhardt those days, saying that they don't have an opening in Hong Kong, but they are opening an office in Dubai if I would be interested. So I joined Meinhardt. I came to Dubai with them, and that was 2005 when Dubai was pretty booming. So I got skyscraper projects, and I was very excited about them.
You found this book in, everywhere. You landed up. You've done work today in Azerbaijan. You've done work today in Baku. You've done work everywhere today. Okay, Vietnam. You've taken on projects. You've taken on so many. And today you run a Façade engineering company, a Façade access service company, technical advice to everybody. Right. My main question to you today is, you work with so many architects, so many, from SOM to Ardian, Smith to Gordon Gill to DSA. But there was one project you worked on, which was the fountain views. And you had 3 architects working with you. My question to you as a facade consultant is, how did you manage working with 3 architects on one project?
I have to say that your voice quality is not the best. So can you repeat which project were you talking about?
I'm talking about fountain views.
Fountain views.
Yeah, fountain views.
Okay, so fountain views was an interesting project.
Yeah.
Okay, so we skipped a little bit. I started the company in 2011, and that was during the previous economic crisis. And Fontaineview was one of the first developments that started up after the crisis by Imar. And yes, it was. It's still not fully handed over. It's partially handed over. It's a large development of 4 high-rise buildings, actually 3 plus the building next to it, Boulevard Point, belongs to it as well. So 4 high-rise buildings and a large podium, which is 12 floors, and houses car park and some retail units and even some apartments. So this project, because of the size of it, was designed by different architects, and we were appointed to work on the full project to provide basically the common language, and it came handy in many times in coordination with the different architects.
Very good. So what I'm
Do you
going to
want to show the image? I sent you a photo of Fontaine
I'm
Music
going,
if
what
you
I'm
want
going
to
to
show
do,
that.
yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some pictures up of your projects, few of the projects that I've liked, which I'm sure
Yeah, we can go through
because there are
those
so many of them,
pictures
so
and
I
I can
wanted
talk
to
to
talk
them.
about each one of them and we take it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this one is Opus.
Yeah. This is a great project. I want to start with it. This is your Opus project where you have 2 towers, you have melting ice, you have cold bent glass. You want to talk about this right now.
Yeah, this was an amazing project. It is a Zahadid project, but I worked on it after leaving the employment of Zahadid. It does have this internal void fluid area, which seems easy. Technically, it's not that easy. It's 5 different facade systems. You can imagine that on the walls and on the skylight and on the soffit, gravity acts differently. Gravity wants to drive water inside differently. Therefore, definitely a different technical solution is required. All these different systems then have to interface seamlessly. So you have this fluid appearance. You don't see big joint lines. And in addition, each of these systems does have different geometries. Some of this glass is flat, very few. Some of them are single curved, some of them double curved, and then it could be double curved to different degree. The very double curved ones had to be hot formed, and the smaller ones, the smaller offsets could be cold bent. So yeah, it was a challenging project. It took a long time, which was heavily influenced by the economic environment and then the whole intensiveness of construction industry. So it slowed down sometimes and then speeded up sometimes. And that was actually handy for the project because it has some technical solutions which at the beginning were not as feasible, but as time passed and industry picked up and for competitiveness, they started to offer certain manufacturing methods which were not that available before. Building this building became possible. And I think we do need buildings like this sometimes to push industry. It's very easy to mass produce and do the same thing over and over. But interesting architecture sometimes comes out of new ideas and new way of utilizing existing materials.
New ideas, a lot of time. New ideas, a lot of time. Fine works, everything happens. Let me just show you another interesting project of yours.
So just back to Opus. So you mentioned cold bending. Cold bending was not a new idea at the time of this project, but it was definitely new and not very well tested to apply it on unitized system. So because there was no literature and no guidance, we actually carried out a set of experiments. I got a few units, normal, typical unitized system units from different manufacturers, contractors, and with the help of the testing facility here in Dubai, we carried out a theoretical set of experiments, tests to verify our calculation models before we went ahead with this.
Super.
About Opus, I can talk 24 hours. It's a lot of things about
There's another
Opus.
project I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
That's another very interesting.
This one.
Yes.
Okay, this is Address Hotel. There are many Address hotels, and some of them are quite close to each other. This is Address the Boulevard, and it is an interesting project. It's 368 meters tall, unitized system. We are pretty proud of it. It got handed over, I think, 4 years ago.
Fantastic. I'm going to show your viewers another very interesting one.
This is Fountain Views. This is the one that you asked at the beginning.
This is the fountain we were talking about, with the connection with the bridge, and it's done by SOM Architects. Can you throw some light on?
No. This one is not SOM.
No, sorry. This is the one where you had 3 architects. Where you had 3 architects on this project. Correct.
Yeah.
3 architects on this project. Tell me. You want to say something on this and how complex it was?
Yeah, we already talked about this, so maybe.
Okay.
Okay, this is the top of Address Hotel.
Now comes the project, which is my favorite project. It's your next one.
Okay, this is Skyview.
Skyview, run by SOM.
Yeah, it actually opened December last year, if I remember correct, or maybe early this year. Maybe. Okay, not sure. Either December last year or early this year. But it was open until the Corona situation started, and then most of the hotels had to suspend. It is twin towers connected with a bridge. For some reason, we have quite a few projects with a sky bridge. The most complicacy out of sky bridges, apart from the structural aspect, which is looked after by the structural engineer, is the facade cleaning system. So on this project, the BMU strategy is actually extremely complicated, and there are different, in total, 22 different systems to cover this building to make sure, make sure that that every piece of glass can be reached not only for cleaning but also for replacement, which is a safety issue and extremely important. If you can see on this image, there are these flying beams under the bridge. That itself is a very nice architectural feature. It makes the transition from the tower to the bridge smoother and more interesting. But from the aspect of BMU and facade access, those rings are actually blocking the BMU machine. So the BMU machine had to become more complicated and go around these flying beams. So sometimes consequences of one decision can heavily influence of some other aspects of the building. It is this building also has a very interesting tourist attraction, which is not yet open, but hopefully after Corona. That will be enjoyed by the whole world as well. It has a glass-floored observation deck and some other full glass features which we engineered, and they are pretty unique. And there's nothing.
That's why I always tell you, you do complex work, you're wonderfully complex, and you do complex work. I'm going to show you another interesting picture to everybody.
You see, okay, so this is the infinity pool of Skyview. So we are on top of the sky bridge, and I'm sure everyone trying this pool will enjoy the view. We enjoy it doubly because of some of the buildings you can see are actually our other projects. So from here you can see 5 other buildings, which on this image, 5 other buildings that are our other projects, and a few more in the background. So to be honest, I'm pretty proud of achieving this.
Oh, you achieved a lot. I'm going to show everybody another photograph coming up soon. One of my favorite projects. I'm sure it'll be one of your favorite.
This is Dubai Design District.
It is continuous. Tell me something about this.
Okay, this project is actually very, very simple, and it's always interesting to speak about complicated projects and complex projects, but to be honest, 20% of our actual work is complicated projects, 80% are quite straightforward buildings. Straightforward buildings do need facade experts to make sure that they stay straightforward. Okay, in terms of budget, in terms of solutions, in terms of finding that one optimal system which fits for it best. So this project is Dubai Design District, and it has an interesting story. It got started before the 2008 economic crisis, and it got built, the superstructure, but the cladding works just barely commenced, and then the project got suspended for a while. When it continued later in 2000, I don't know, 14, 15, we were approached. The concept changed a bit, and they wanted to put a different facade design on it, and the most important driver of the project was to finish it quickly. It was a design-build project, basically. We only produced the specification and 4 detailed drawings, and then immediately started workshops with the selected contractor and work out everything together. So basically, they came to the meeting saying that we have these 5 types of glass which are readily available in the quantity needed. Which one would be the best? Same thing with the systems and other materials. It was heavily driven by meeting the program, by reducing procurement time and simplifying things. So it's very, very repetitive. To make it more interesting, the architects came up with the idea of these decorative screen elements, which are applied on the building in a seemingly random pattern. But because they are repetitive and they are standard solution, it still fitted the program very well.
You know, the next photograph I'm going to show everybody is not repetitive, is not standard, it's not a simple project. So I placed this photograph
it may not look simple, but it is simple.
Yeah, but you know, you said something 5 minutes back that my work is very simple. Suddenly people will start telling you your fees also should be less if they're going to be simple. So we'll go to the next one, which is very complex, very complex. It's the museum, and I want you to talk about this, the importance of logistics, the importance of the complex geometry, where you've got it all curved, and how it is coming up in Dubai.
Yeah, this is a very complicated geometry, this building. On this project, we supported the main contractor. I would say like 70% of our projects, we support the developer or the lead consultant. And on some projects, which are typically more engineering intense projects, we are involved in the main contractor or the specialist facade contractors side. So this one was one of the few where we work with the main contractor. It's a very different world, working with main contractor, and I think it's very healthy to to get projects from both sides to gain to gain experience, or to stay in practice thinking with both sides. And
I want to ask you one.
successful engineering actually does not have sides. Successful engineering is the benefit of the project, because the benefit of the project should be an alignment in between the contractors and the developers. But you know that there are always day-to-day decisions.
I'm not saying anything. When you say successful relationship, developer and contractor, I represent all the contractors. All you say is true. But end of the day is the facade consultant. I will show you one more, my dear. Okay?
Okay, that's another image of Dubai Design District from a different angle.
Right. Okay. I'm going to go back, and now we can go back to some more questions which are not related. And I think we've covered all the pictures, but there's one picture I want to show you now. And to all the viewers, especially for those from India, if you can tell me something about this picture. My face
okay,
is coming
so
there. I can't show the whole picture because I don't know how to move my face in the picture, but that's the real picture.
That is a render of a project which is actually, it's not our first project in India, but it's the first which is getting completed. So this project is in Hyderabad. This is a very large development. It is one building, but in reality, it's like three buildings, the three blocks, although very close to each other, but the sheer size of it would justify to call it three different buildings. It has a hotel, an office, and residential tower side, and it has retail at the bottom. It's a very exciting project. It's in Hyderabad, if I haven't mentioned, with one of the prime developers in Hyderabad. It's coming up now. The construction started some time ago with the enabling works, and it will be exciting to see it getting built. We do a lot of work internationally. I talked a lot about our Dubai projects because, to be honest, the majority of our projects are in Dubai. But we have a lot of international work, including Europe, Asia. Through our Singapore office, we do work in Vietnam, in Singapore. Actually, the India project is also looked after from Singapore office. So India is an interesting market. All of these projects we do internationally are very different, not only because of different climate, different regulations, different availability of materials, different traditions in building. In a field like facade engineering, where there are so many different solutions, many times there are multiple good solutions, and the decision between those solutions can be purely just the fact that one solution is more traditional or more well known in a place than another. And that's very exciting to see and to experience and learn these things. What are the different expectations in different other countries? So, like for this project in India, my colleagues traveled for a whole week in India, actually more than a week, visiting multiple factories and multiple glass processors to ensure that our advice is in line with what can be built and what's practical to be built at that location.
Super. Now I want to, we've almost got about only another 15 minutes more to go. And we've discussed your projects, we've discussed your life, we've discussed so much. And I don't want to go into technical because everybody knows you're very technical. We've already discussed everything about you. So I think we've got a lot of questions coming in from different people, and we want to ask you certain questions which are very mild, but
Okay.
they're very mild. But one of them is pretty interesting, and it says, "What does Agnes Koltay have to say about future of new materials? Any new
I
materials coming?"
couldn't hear you. What does?
Just 1 second. We get this line off. Okay, go on.
I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah. What I want to ask you is, the question which has come in is, what does Agnes Koltay have to talk about future of new materials like photovoltaic cells and solar work in spandrel panels?
Okay. A photovoltaic or solar panel by itself is it's not a material. It can be a feature on the building. The question is, what are we building? Are we building a power plant or are we building a building? If we want to build a power plant, then we want to be very careful about the efficiency of it. Unfortunately, the facade area of the spandrels on a building are not enough to cover a big enough area to make it a meaningful input with solar panels. So if we want to contribute with renewable energies to the energy balance of the building, it could make sense to build a solar farm somewhere 10 kilometers apart, big enough to power the building, especially if it's a high-rise building. My problem with solar panels that they are many times used for marketing to put on the building to try to appear or to try to broadcast an image. So if we are building a building, then there are other ways to power it. If we are building a building where we want to use a big percentage of renewable power, then we could do it from a solar farm. So this is the controversion that I myself cannot process very well. Okay. But of course, if there's a need to put solar panels on a building, the technical solutions are ready for it. You can fix it to the building easily. And that's where the facade engineering part ends. The energy calculations, the efficiency of it, all these are done by the electrical engineers.
Okay, tell me another thing very interesting which has always intrigued me. It has not interested me. It has always intrigued me. It's always challenged me. You said you spoke about one building where you use 22 systems. On another building, you said you use 5 different systems. Okay? Tell me, what do you really prefer? Do you prefer a European female mullion gasket system? Or do you prefer a male mullion, female mullion, 4 weather gasket, 5 weather gasket, Australian-American system?
Okay. In one way, I don't really have a preference. I mean, I should not have a preference.
Agnes, that's an answer everybody will give. I lost you. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hello?
Go on. Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Something happened.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, if you can hear me, that's fine. So the best system is also it's always whatever system is the most optimal for that given building, and there are no 2 buildings identical. So some buildings can be very rectilinear geometry. It could be 60 floors, but the same copy-paste floors. We have some buildings like that. That would be clearly a unitized system solution. Some building could be balconies, floor to floor, sky gardens, messes bulging out and stepping in. That, even if it's a high-rise building, probably could be better to be built with a stick system. European system so male, female, and female systems. Again, depends on where it gets built and what gets attached to it and what geometry it has. European system, for example, has slightly better thermal performance. So if in a country where that matters, maybe we should go with that. On the other hand, it's a bit more tricky to attach large sunshades or brise soleils to it. Not impossible, but could be a bit more tricky. So if that's the case, then it could be a male-female system. The beauty comes with the availability of all these options to select from. And the beauty comes from the fact that there's no formula or exact rule of what is a good system and what is not a good system. It depends on the building, on the geometry, on the climate, on the environment. And that's where design freedom comes, and that's something that you enjoy, not just to open page 5 of the catalog and apply it, but think of what works the best.
I was going to ask you, you have an extra table in your office. I want to come and work with you now. I'm going to retire there. I'm going to learn. You talk so eloquently.
Extra tables because we all work from home.
You talk so eloquently. You give so correct an answer. It looks like it's already at the back of your mind. It's perfect. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we almost come to the last 10 minutes of this show, of this great Insta show, with the one and only Agnes Koltay. Before we ask her a few questions, one must remind all of you that she is a world-famous facade consultant of most complex projects who has dealt with world-famous architects. She is the winner of the Women's of the Year Award previously, the winner of the Specialist Consultancy Award of the Year. She has studied all over from Hungary to USA to UK. She shared with you so many projects, but now we're going to ask her a few questions which are called rapid fire questions. And what do you define yourself as? If you're going to look at my paper, are you Agnes Koltay, the entrepreneur, or Agnes Koltay, a facade engineer? What's your first love?
That's a very tricky question. I'm a bit of both. I would like to be Agnes Koltay, I would like to be Agnes Koltay, the facade engineer, but I have to be Agnes Koltay, the entrepreneur. I did start the company with a need of doing less administration and management and do more of what I enjoy with passion, which is facade engineering. But that's not how you run a company. So I ended up doing a lot of job interviews and all kinds of, things that you have to do. Payment collection, one of the big tasks of everyone. When I studied and when I had architecture in my mind, I did not want to be a debt collector, but this is how life is.
Right. Okay, next question. The one building you would love to have been the facade engineer or facade consultant.
I couldn't hear you, sorry.
Any building comes to your mind, or you've done the best after Opus?
Out of my project, all of my projects. They are challenging different ways, and there are even projects which are not full building projects, just a short evaluation of something like like a failure investigation. Something happened and the glass keeps breaking and it has been replaced many times and it's still breaking. And it's very exciting to figure out why. So I do enjoy all of our projects. And again, that was another driver of starting my company, to be able to select projects we work on.
Right. Okay, then I don't have more questions or rapid fire with you, because I didn't want to ask you many more complex one-liners. It's not good. A lady has to be respected and loved and admired and pampered and not be put in the hot seat. So I'm going to ask you to tell everybody about your hot love with cameras and taking photographs all over the world with your What is this fascination with cameras and you?
I always liked photography. So from university years, I did photography. Those days, back at university, I was very much interested in architectural photography, taking pictures of buildings. These days, I'm more interested in cityscape and landscape. I think my job during the day, I see enough buildings. So in my free time, landscape is something which is more relaxing. But why I restarted photography is because I needed something to take my mind off. You know, when you have all the projects and the company issues and everything on you, you cannot just lay on the beach. Your brain still works. So I need some activities which takes my focus, and photography is one of such. I like taking my focus on something else.
No, I'll tell you what, I want to share with everybody a story about you and something which I know. And I want you to tell us a little more on it. We've got half a minute more on that question. You once told me that everybody drives on Sheikh Zayed Road so fast, and you have the picture of the Sheikh looking at you from a pole, and you always...
Come on, that's one of my very old pictures.
Let me finish. From his photograph, inside one of his eyes, there should have been a radar camera. How did that idea come to you? They lost you. They lost you.
Yeah, I
got
don't
the
know.
question?
It's okay. Anything else?
Okay. Then I think, we spoke about your cameras. We've spoken about what we have. We almost come to the end of the program. So when we say this, I want to thank the sponsors. I want to thank Zakir Bhai. I want to thank Ahad. And we all, brought you to this table. We have to say that there are only two things in life. One is a miracle which happens by accident, and one is the miracle which happens by the universe. Are you with me? And we brought everything together. We've spoken to you. You had an amazing journey. You brought everything together. And I think it's important for all the viewers to know that you have created an independent facade consultancy on your own. Your consultancy is not even 10 years old. You've done more than 24 big projects, very large, of big magnitude. And we wish you all the best. And before we end, can we ask you, where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
I don't know. I don't do long-term planning that way.
No?
You see, none of us saw anything about this lockdown and how much our life has changed only in 2-3 months,
Yeah.
So I don't believe in very long-term planning. I don't know. Maybe I will be here. Maybe I will be in another country. I don't know. We will see.
You have no idea? Well, you are the power.
I have some ideas, but I don't have one target. I like to experience life in a flexible way where you can adjust as you see fit.
Okay, then I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to end with you by telling you, Agnes, you are the power. You are the powerhouse from what I know you in Façade Consultancy. You are the journey. You are the destination. The world is yours, and you are the world, Agnes. When it comes, because I've seen you draw. It's pen to paper, and then straight it's on the board. Straight it goes to the AutoCAD. And I've seen you working with your 3Ds, with your rhinos, so I know where I'm coming from. And I think when you think you're done, you have only the best in front of you. But I don't think you're done yet. I think you have a long
Thank you
way
very
to
much
go.
for your kind words. It's very, very, very nice of you to hear
You
all
have
of
a
these.
long way to go.
And thank you
You
for
have a long
taking
way to go.
your time from your busy schedule to have this session on Instagram with me.
Good luck to you then. Good luck, and we see you
Yeah,
soon
wishing
again.
you the best.
Another
Thank you.
series.
Thanks
Okay.
everyone for listening. Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.